So we'll go into it. We'll go into the Taoist belief, which is that they use the 5-element theory and understand how 5 elements theory, and then we've got to go into to talk about their concept of what happens to your energy when we die. We've got to go into the understanding of a little bit of the philosophy of who they think we are to start off. And so when we die, what actually happens, you need to know how they see us. So in the Taoist belief, there's this concept. It's not just the Taoist belief, it's in a lot of spiritual beliefs, that we have this thing called Shen, which is like the great spirit or the great consciousness or God, if you like to call it God, depending on what religious belief you have. So there's this consciousness. And from that consciousness, a piece of it comes down and put inside our own physical body. We have physical form, and our soul comes into us. And the Shen, which is a part of the connection of your soul to the great connection. So we have this connection to God, now all consciousness. And if we think about in the belief of the monastery school, we talk about our head string. Our head string connects us, our Shen, our consciousness of our soul, and consciousness of our soul, connects it back to source, back to the great consciousness. And we have this, we're plugged into the mainframe as such. Yeah. And then with part of the Shen that we have inside is it's broken into 5 different pieces of the spiritual aspect. We have our physical functioning of our body with all the meridians and all the blood and all the lymphatic and how the whole physical body functions, how the car functions. But I'm talking about the driver of the car, the one that's driving the car, not the car. With the car one's a different chat about how extraordinary the car is. But we'll go back into the driver of the car. So he's broken into 5 different pieces. The Hindu religions, similar here in Bali, they see God as this one piece, and then they worship all the different pieces, but they're not different gods. They're all different fragments of the main God. They're just different parts of it, which is very similar to the 5 elements because we break it down to 5 of them. And so each of them has its own part. We have the willpower, which is the Z, which is in 5 elements. We have the intellect, which is part of the spleen, and we have the Hun, which we'll talk about, the Hun, which is the ethereal soul, lives in the liver. And then we have the corporeal soul, lives in our lungs. But we'll deal with just the because it's a very complex subject. We'll just talk about the 2 main ones. Well, they're not the main ones. They're the 2 ones about life and death we're going to talk about. And that's about a corporeal soul, which lives in your lungs. And believe that it's driven, it stays alive by the breath of life. As we breathe in, it funds the corporeal soul that allows us to be alive in this physical form, because when we stop breathing, of course, we're not here anymore. And that's an important part. And we have that corporeal soul with us for our duration of our life until we breathe out our last breath. And then it stays with the physical form. The soul stays with the physical form as it dies. But the ethereal soul, which is the connection between ourselves, and it's like it's equated like it's our memory of our whole life. It's our memory stick of our whole life, goes back to the consciousness, back to Shen. And that's what happens to it. They believe that that's how it transpires from life in this world back out. So all our memories, every second of our life is in the memory stick. And it goes back to the great consciousness. And then, of course, the theory, whether you believe in reincarnation or not, but then it can be, that memory stick can be plugged into another computer, upgraded, and then sent back again to have another experience. Yeah, to have another experience. But it's been upgraded because when it comes back in a new realm, things have changed. Rainer, my son's, his memory stick's different because he's really into modern computers and things like that, where I was not brought into that. We didn't even have a calculator at school when I was a kid. So our conscience wasn't around that. But his is. And it wasn't so because he's around me. He was already like that when he was young. He was already, his mind was already geared to that. And they're teaching him coding at school. But he's already really into it. And I look at, how does your mind even know how to do that at 8 years old? I'm older and I struggle with dealing with that. And it's really simple for him. It's sort of like his program is good for that. It's like it's built to deal with a modern situation. And I think that's what happens. We keep evolving into different levels as we come back in. Some of these kids in the world today are extraordinary. Some of the skills that these kids have are just phenomenal, way, way different to what we were when I was young. Anyway,
Peter, I've heard that what's going on with the mother when the child's in the womb helps with how they are when they come out. So
Yeah.
it's like, that's why, you can give a 3-year-old a phone and they can just go zap, 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 zap. Whereas give me one, it's like, where's my daughter?
Yeah, exactly. No, I hear you. What do you think, whatever happens to the mum, whatever's going on mental, emotionally, spiritual experience your mum's having, if the baby's inside that, it's inside that field, that energy field. It's inside the consciousness of that. It might not be conscious as we are talking now, even our limited consciousness or even talking now. But in the baby, there is still cognitive understanding. But remember, it's not understanding how we understand life. It's understanding that in a primal. But if it's already got a soul and it's already alive and functioning, it just doesn't necessarily think the way we think. But it doesn't mean it doesn't think. It doesn't have experiences. Doesn't take on what the mum is feeling. It takes on her feelings and her emotions and everything else. And when it comes out, it gets to sit beside her mum, watching those same emotions and same expressions that she was when she was carrying them, or her own, whatever it was. And so what it does is get reconfirmed by the imprint. And then also hears dad talking to mum, and it used to listen to dad talking to mum when he was inside as well. So it knows that relationship already because it's already heard it. And it already understands that in a way that our conscious doesn't understand, because our consciousness is different to the baby's consciousness. But it doesn't mean it doesn't understand. I'd hate to think this. I would never say that a baby doesn't understand. They do. They understand in their own way, but it's a different language than what we speak, but they still understand. And so they're being imprinted with all of that. And then they spend the rest of their life trying to unprint themselves from that, get rid of the karma that your parents gave you. But it wasn't even them, because their parents gave it to them. And then and of course, the concept of your own karma anyway. So the whole wading through that messy bog of what you were given to try and come back to what Catherine was talking about, back into the stillness where your real self lives, who your real personality, your real character is, and coming back to that original self without all the distortions, without all the teachings of how you should and shouldn't behave and what you should and shouldn't do, and come back to who you really are without all that the doctrine's been taught to you and the programming that's been taught to you. And some of the programming is not correct. Some of the programs your teachers taught you is not correct. And so you have to wade through and then you go through life trying to prove that it is right. Or then if you're certain people, like all the people on this side are not like that, who question that. Because you wouldn't be in this chat today if you were like that, because you question it. You question the reality of it, the validity of these comments that teachers said to you about life, the world, and because it's coming from their consciousness of what they think life is, and they're teaching you. I mean, it's fundamentally difficult about sending your kids to school if they think you got teachers teaching things that I don't believe in. And so it makes it really difficult. And so to try and, I'm trying to give Raina less of my own stuff, all my negative stuff and all my flaws. I'm trying to give as less as I can, but I watch him behaving and I go, oh God, that's me. And I see him I say, yeah, well, Joe's finished the other day, God, I was just like that when I was younger. And I go, yeah, how we keep from that stuff, I don't know. But if we're more conscious we are of our own behavior, then we're more conscious of how we can change it out of ourselves. And then so he can see that we've changed it as well, so that he stops doing that as well. Hopefully he's like a little mirror of himself, which is quite scary. Anyway, so back to the story. So the corporeal soul stays here on the planet and it dies with your physical form. It has the experience, and part of it is to do with it makes things happen. So if you think of the Shen, which is the little Shen, we think of the big Shen and then goes to the little Shen. And inside your Shens, your heart's connected to the Shen. And your Shen desires experience. It longs for having experiences in this world. It's one of its things it does here, is your soul or your heart wants to have experience, and it yearns for that. And then your ethereal soul plans how it's going to have these experiences, how it's going to have the experiences, and it plans all the things it wants to do. It creates the bucket list. And then the corporeal soul, which is your earthly soul, works out how that's going to happen. And it works out how we're going to do all those things. So it creates, it rings the taxi, it rings the booking line, it does all that. But the ethereal souls worked out, well, I want to go for a trip to there and I want to do that, and then I want to see this and I want to see that. And then the corporeal soul works out how that's going to happen. So that's how they see it. And I've briefed that out, so I've condensed that so small to just understand the principle of it, because it's way more complex than that. But that's the basic principle of that, to have our experiences. But when we die, all the memories of all the things we went and visited and all the things we did and all the pain we felt in every second of, because in theory, every second of your life's been recorded. There's no second that's not. It's just what we don't necessarily have recall of every second. We recall things that we can pinpoint events, but every second's been recorded. So when you pull out the memory stick and you die, the whole lot of that goes with it. Everything of your life. But there's a kicker for this one too, because when you're born, in your DNA, you have, so we've got to break these apart so you can see different pieces. So there's your soul that comes in, and it has a connection to your Shen, little Shen has a connection to big Shen. And then it comes in, and then it has the ability to plan and experience life and do that. But it also comes in with karma. So your soul comes in with karma something for it to deal with, something for it to grow and learn from. It's like it's textbook. All the things that you need to learn are in the book, and it's your karma. And then you get your parents to help you with the karma to make it even really stronger and to have that experience. But the thing is, our physical body has another set of energy, because it comes from the DNA from your parents. So when your body is born, it has the DNA from your parents, and it has the memory of your parents inside your body as well. Now you've got your own one coming down with your karma. Now we've got this other imprint. I mean, whoever designed this is extraordinary how clever this is. And you've got the imprint of your parents. Now your parents, it only has the memory of your parents depending on how old they were when your mother conceived you, because you're only going to have the memory before you were born, because after that, it's not memory of yours, it's her memory, but it's not yours anymore. You just get imprinted the DNA that she gives you. That's where she's up to in her life. So 20 years of your father, 20 years of your mother, I just use that figure loosely. And so you get 20 years of your father, 20 years of your mother, and that's imprinted in you, 20 years of their life and their memories inside your cellular memory. Now, then you have to deal with that, because now that's going to trigger a response. And this is what happens sometimes when something comes to you and you go, where's that thought? I've never experienced that in my life, but where's that from? Because it's already in there. That's okay. That's only one generation, unfortunately. I wish there was less than that. So that's your mum and your dad. And if you go back, your mum and your dad had a mum and a dad, and your dad had a mum and a dad, and your dad's mum had a mum and your dad. So it just keeps going back infinitely backwards, the two people, yin yang, yin yang, yin yang, mother and dad, all the way back. If you have, I think it's 7 generations, is 256 people. 256 people in 7 generations that you have the DNA memory of their childhood in you. Because remember, your mum and dad has 20 years of their parents in them, whatever they will conceive, they have the memories of their parents in them, and then you get there. So you get all of the lineage of all the memories of all the people, and you're walking around it. So you have 256 people's memories inside your DNA. That's only 7 generations. If we go back 8 generations, it's 512. 512 people's memory. If you go double that, it's 1,024 if you go to 9 generations. That's a lot of people's thoughts and ideas inside your DNA that can influence you. And then you've got your own karma on top. You can see why it's so messy, can't you? You can see why our life's not that easy to wade through all this stuff going on. And part of our cognac, part of our computer, is to bring things that are useful and things that are not useful, and then try and wade through the journey of the soul's journey, and to come to a place when we get back to where Catherine's 80 years. Now we had 80 years of experience on top of all that again, and to try and make some sense and look at, isn't it interesting how you get through all of that as you go back to the place of stillness and let it all go. Let it all go and come back to the place of stillness, because inside that is the pure essence of yourself without all the memories. It's just you. Just the clean soul lives inside there, without the karmic story, without the stories from your parents, without the story of society, without the story of it. It's just your soul, clean inside the stillness. Just your personality, just your character, with nothing else. And that's an extraordinary place to find it, because inside that place is a place of rest, a place of peace and quiet, because all that other stuff goes away. And that's what Catherine's saying. It all dissolves. It dissolves in the stillness. And that's why people have been talking about this forever. Eckhart Tolle talks about the stillness all the time, because he understands that place in the present moment in that stillness is the key to everything. And everything else is just noise. You can see how much noise there is, scary noise. And so the Qigong is such a great vehicle to bring you back into that place where it's just you and nothing else inside the stillness. Such a beautiful thing. And I know that Amanda, who's here, I know she's just been doing free diving. And so the stillness is palpable when you're doing free diving, because you have to let go. And as you go down, you let go and the stillness gets louder. If stillness can get louder, stillness gets louder inside the place, because you have to let go. You've got to keep relax, keep going, letting go. As deeper you go, the more you can let go. And there's something really special inside this. It's a very spiritual experience of the understanding of letting go. As soon as you think of something, as soon as your body reacts to something, the body gets all tense, and then you've lost your dive. Then you've got to go back up again because the body's created adrenaline. And so then the adrenaline goes back into fight and flight inside your body, and you're trying to equate, but not let that happen. I'm making that sound very simple. There's a little more to the mechanics of that, how it happens, but make that nice and simple for you. And so so that's their theory. So when we die, your soul goes out as a memory stick. Well, I shouldn't say memory stick. That sounded a bit, depends what quality.
Your thumb drive.
Your thumb drive. You know, if you're, these days you get a thumb drive with a 4 terabyte thumb drive. I mean, there's more information in that thumb drive than was in the whole bloody space shuttle.
I think mine's only about
capacity in that thumb drive.
I think mine's only 500 gigs. So
yeah. You just get huge ones now, and they're just little tiny little things, because it's just technology's changed. But the information of the whole that goes out. But your parents, the memories of your parents, something the DNA goes out with it too, of course. So there you go. So, but the parts of the mind that remember all this and how the functionality of all it happens, the parts of the mind, parts of the computer, the same thing. But there was one that came up that when you're getting rid of memories, because I'm really big into changing going into find memories. If you have a memory of a fear that you have, and going into your mind, into your hard drive, and find out where all your memories are stored in your mind, and basically clearing out your memory field from your computer, finding the folder, delete the folder, and then find out where else it's stored inside your body. But one of the ones I didn't know, which I didn't think of, I shouldn't say didn't know, I didn't think of at the time, was you've got to clear your cache. And it's one thing to go for short-term memory, and it's one thing to go for your hard drive where the memory's stored, and wherever you're storing all your files. But you've got to clear your cache as well. And I forgot about it. I was busy cleaning the recycle bin, but I forgot to clean the cache out as well, because it has memory. So it's interesting. And you have RAM with a memory as well. They have your operating system has memory as well. So it's complex, but it's an interesting concept anyway about how you can clear it out. So when you leave, you go out with you go out in the stillness with all that stuff gone. And wherever you go, you're just going to go, yeah, you got rid of all that stuff. I've gone around and I've gone back to my parents, and I've deleted the files of all my parents' generations. I don't want all that information. I don't need it. It's no use to me. The experience I want is to come back to my reality of who I am, and I've just deleted the files of all of them. So I don't have 256 people's memories inside folders. They're all gone. It's empty. Yeah, and I gingerly got rid of my mum's and my dad's. They're 20 years. I don't want theirs either. And so all I've got left is just my experience from the time I was conceived, from the time of conception, of my physical form, and then the time that my soul came into my physical body, because they come at different times. They don't all come at the same time. And when it entered, and then that experience of this life, and then wading through all the stories to get to where I am now, and just let all that go and just come back to the stillness, come back to the pure essence of who I really am, and the quietness of that inside the silence. Well, that's my goal. I haven't got there yet. I just must admit, I'd like to think that I'm probably not even an eighth of the way there, or even that one might be an exaggeration. It might be a 100th of the way there. I don't know. But I think there's something happens inside the purification of that, because what happens is your ability to see yourself and see the world just gets clearer and clearer and clearer. and less and less judgment, and you just have understanding. And there's a freedom that comes with that. A little bit that I have, a little bit that I've managed to get so far, I can't encourage people enough to try and go into that space, go into the dive, go deeper into the dive of this letting go. And there's something that happens in this anyway. So that's the overview. So does anybody have any comments or questions around that, or even comments of your own experience with that? I'd really like you to do that. Just push the little hand button up, push the little hand button so I can see who it is, and I can call you in if you want to say something to me. Because I think it's cool, something, isn't it? Heard it. Host question, share. Anyway, I think Terry, you want to say something, Terry?
Yeah, I just want to say it's been a long time since I've been at a chat, and this was really inspiring, very thought-provoking. So I thank everybody, and it was really nice connecting with everybody. And on that note, I'm going to say goodbye till later.
I know how late it is at nighttime at your place, so time for bed.
It is. I have to get up at 4, so yeah,
okay.
It's 10 for me. So good night. And Walter, it was great seeing you again, especially. Thank you.
It was great seeing you too. It's been a long time.
Good night, Terry.
Good night.
Bye-bye. That's really cool. Anybody else like to pass on a comment or their own experience of that?
I can't.
Yeah,
Oh, you go, Terry. I can't find my hands. You go.
I was just wondering if any of you have heard about the experiment they did with mice. And they had mice, and they had a smell. It was an aromatherapy smell, and they scared the mice with this smell. And every time they smelt this smell, they'd get scared. Then they bred the mice, and each generation they tested the smell. And they found 7 generations later, they just needed to put this smell with them, and they were scared.
Yeah, that's great. That's exactly what I was talking about.
Yeah.
It just gets carried down in the DNA. They just keep the memory. Yeah, see, 7 generations. That's exactly. Isn't that amazing, isn't it? 7 generations still reacting to the same thing they were programmed to believe. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. But and then they stopped it.
I haven't heard that. So thanks for sharing that. But it just shows you what we were saying and what their belief is. It's so strong. There's a fundamental belief. There's a fundamental thing that actually happens with that. Not that we're mice, but
yeah.
We bring out the idea of smell. God, I get on a bit of a roll with this. The smell and the taste. We now can make chemical tastes of any flavor. We can make a banana by chemicals. We can make the taste of passion fruit by chemicals. We can make the taste of chicken by chemicals. It's not even real. When we're using a digital compound to create a flavor that our taste buds think is that flavor, and it's the same frequency as the flavor, and our body thinks it is. And it's digitally, we're making it up. It's not even real if we make it up. The same with fragrance. We can make any smell we want to digitally, and our body doesn't know that it's not the real thing. It thinks it's exactly that's what it is. And I think, well, that just shows that we're already digitally making things that our body perceives as digital information anyway. And the same with the sounds. It's a huge thing with the sound. Our body takes in sound waves or frequency from outside, and inside our inner ear, it converts it into a digital signal, and then goes to the brain, and the mind decodes the digital signal. I mean, how extraordinary is that? When you think of what's really happening with that, it all goes back to this coding thing. And it's just the same with smells, because now we can replicate anything to be something else. And it's not that. Have you seen the new AI that's already there, by the way? This has not been invented or coming. It's already there. One day you can actually get programs now that I can record my visual face, and it records my sound, and I can type in words into it, and it will speak as though I'm speaking, and you cannot tell it's not me. And I'm the one who said it, but it looks like me. It speaks exactly like me. And I don't mean it's sort of like an animated version of me. No, it looks exactly like me. And even my mannerisms, it picks up your mannerisms, it picks up your tone of your voice exactly how I'm talking now. And it's not actually me at all. And you can type it in and you can see it talking and go, oh, that's bizarre. I never said that, but that sounds like me. That's already been here. and it's been here for a while. So the problem now is when you see people talking on TV or you see people talking on the news,
So, yeah.
you don't know whether it's actually them talking or not, or whether somebody just wrote Decoding for them. You don't know. It's that clever, and it's already there. This is not coming. It's already there. So now it's hard unless you're standing in front of somebody to know whether actually what you're seeing is true. This might not be me. This could be a AI imagery of me speaking to you, which is going to be, that's what's going to happen in the future. Fright, isn't that extraordinary? Frightening if you want to see it frightening, or extraordinary in another way. It's already here. It's not as though you can buy a program.
Is it real or Memorex?
Yeah, wow.
Don't you think, though, that if we had any control about what AI was going to do with us and our image and all the rest, we'd choose something a bit better? I mean,
you'd like to think.
Would I really want to look like me if I could organize an AI to do something better?
Yeah, I'm sure mine would look a lot younger with more muscles.
Yeah, I think,
and I'd definitely have some hair.
Yeah,
I'd have hair and I'd have more muscles.
I was going to make a comment about the past generations, and ask you what you thought of the practice of doing genealogy. My family has been traced back to 1100, and we have the large family tree and the various idiots and the various criminals, and the same as everybody else. But it's just that it was so fascinating to do. And my husband has just done his, and he actually is Italian, and it goes back right through to the cardinals and Florence and what have you.
Very cool.
And we've both been totally fascinated by what we found out. Now, from what you said, does that mean that right from the year 1100, that my peculiarities can be traced back all that way, and is there anything I can do about it?
Yeah, you can delete the file. Yeah, so in theory, it goes right back.
So many people.
In theory, you have all those people's memories of their life when the person was perceived, the next one down, because you can't have the memory after you've been born, because it's not your memory. It's not in your DNA. It's in your DNA in the egg and the sperm. It's in that DNA. But when the next egg that comes along with the mother's, won't be the next egg, the next egg is impregnated 2 years later, the mother's had 2 years more years of experience, so the DNA is going to be slightly different than the egg, because it's had more experience. So the memory inside, the cellular memory inside the egg from the mother has 2 more years of memory. So the theory is you'll have the memory of all of those people. This is the theory. They'll have the memory of all of those people right back. But how far back does it go? Where does it go? Right back to the original source of the human beings. I wrote that, if you go yourself and then you have yin and yang, mum and dad have yin and yang, and your mum has yin and yang, and you just go back yin and yang, yin and yang. It goes back to eternity. But then how does it get back to the concept of 2 people? Adam and Eve, and then they have 2, and then they have 2, and then they have 2, and their parents all the way that way. And somehow then it goes out to a huge brain, and then it comes back to you. I mean, there's the mathematical formula, you can work that out. But the theory is it goes back that way infinitely. How far back does it go? Because the chicken and the egg, you have to have mum and dad. Everybody in your line has to have a mum and a dad. Where does it start? Where's the original mum and dad? But that's only on one side, because there's mum and dad on the other side. There's mum and dads all the way through. Where's the original mum and dad we came from? Or did we not come from the concept of Adam and Eve to the children, to the children, to the children? And then from that comes all the way back down to you. But we know we have to have 2 people to give birth. Well, as far as we understand, you've got to have 2. You have to have a mum and a dad. You have to have a chicken and an egg, or 2 chickens, a male chicken and a female chicken to get the egg. Yeah. And so the whole concept of life goes back to that question, what was first, the chicken or the egg? And I ask this question, nobody can answer it, because you need both. To have an egg, you need a chicken, but to have a chicken, you need the egg to start off with. But where did the egg come from? It hadn't needed 2 chickens, and then you needed the egg. So where did it start? And everybody, I ask people the question, they just look at you blankly because there's no answer to that unless something just created the egg. And just somebody created human beings and put you on the planet and said, okay, off you go, start breeding and good luck. I don't know. But something had to happen. And whether it's happened through generations from the caveman all the way through, I'm not sure. I'm not sold on the evolution theory. But something's happened that we've created this. But we have to have a mum and dad. It's got to go. How far back does it go? You go back to the early parts in Italy and right back into the Christian belief. But it's got to go back further than that because they had a mum and dad as well. And they've got to go further back than that. They had a mum and dad. So where does it go back to? How far can it go back? Well, it's just got to keep going back to a mum and a dad somewhere because otherwise you wouldn't be here. It had to come from somewhere. It had to come from the chicken and the egg somewhere. People really trying to work this one out forever as well. That doesn't make any sense, does it? So, I don't know. I just go back to the theory that we're all aliens anyway, so it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
because otherwise, where do we come from?
but Pete, then there is also
no, go.
Yeah, sorry, on mute. Just saying, then there is the other theory of being the end of the line when you choose not to have children.
Yeah,
And that's where you cut it off. That
but see, I
particular
don't believe
line.
that happens either, because your DNA stick that comes out of you gets reincarnated back in again, so it doesn't stop at all.
Okay, or maybe.
Yeah,
But maybe by not having children, it actually, you know.
You're going to stop the DNA line. Yes, you are, and that way, but you're going to come reincarnated back into another DNA line when you come back.
Yeah,
you're going to come back with your memory of your, because I understand what you're saying.
Do you really think that we always come back as a human? Not
well,
as not as a dog?
No, I have no idea. You could be a mosquito.
Dolphin.
I might have just killed your ancestor in here before. I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's
I
right.
can comment on that. I actually can make a comment on that because
go
back in the day I was part of a medicine lodge, and I was in Bernice Falling Leaves medicine lodge out in Seattle, and she talked about her one friend that the one dog always did certain things that were it's kind of funny, were very similar to what her friend that died does. So she assumed that person was actually the dog. But also with the reincarnation thing, I when I was out in Seattle in the Auburn area, I also met oh man, my brain is going. Oh, she was a part of the Bond tradition. Oh, I can't remember her name right now. That really stinks. But the person was at 6 years old talking in the Upper Himalayan language. And she, talked about how she was she actually did acupuncture on her dog. Never knew what that was. She just did it on her dog that was like 15 years old, and the thing was like running around like crazy. You could tell people, when they were dying, and she ended up being made a lama in the Bond tradition. And I wish I could call up her name because I did a few minutes ago, but my age is catching up with me for some reason tonight, and I can't remember her name. But yeah, that reincarnation part is definitely real in my opinion, and what I've run into.
Thanks for sharing that, Walter. There's a really good documentary. I'm not sure it's a Netflix one, that might have been on Gaia TV, and it was interviewing all these people that had memories. Their memories of the child had memories of being a certain person, and they went and found the person that they were, and they were exactly that. They knew everything about that person. They were talking about almost like this, and that person this person was exactly like the other person. They even thought the same way. They had the same mannerisms. They remember things that the other person had happened to them, that had happened to them, and they were exactly the same. It wasn't one or two. It was a whole lot of people that they did this to show these people actually had this incredible memory of the incarnation of somebody else, and the other people one of them was still alive, and they had memory of it. It's like, well, it's just bizarre. So it just opens that door.
Okay.
But back to what Amanda said, which
I want to say one more thing. I remember the name now. It's Maddie Nolan. You know, and she, you know, came after they had the Cultural Revolution in China. She came over here, and she was teaching classes out in the Auburn area, out in Seattle. Yeah, she talked about that. And worked with monads and the whole, you know, monad and reincarnation and all that. Really powerful individual, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. If you see that 4-year-old playing Chopin, we'll just stay with that, but I want to go back to Amanda's question. Or her, I wasn't sure, it was just what we were discussing. But if you see that 4-year-old playing Chopin and you watch him play, and you can just type in 4-year-old on YouTube, 4-year-old playing Chopin, and you'll see him. And this kid is 4 years old, and he's playing it. Catherine, I'm sure you would have seen him, and it's extraordinary. Even the timing in between how he plays, it's like playing like somebody who takes 30 years, 40 years to learn how to play like that, and his kid's 4. How on earth did he know how to do that? How can he have that conscience that can just play like that? They bought him a piano when he was one of those little toy pianos, and he sat there and he started making music, and they go, oh God, that sounds like proper music. No, it must be just accidentally hitting the right note. And they bought him another 2, and he started composing music when he was 2. But when you see him playing, and then you see him like before he starts playing, he's like this little kid just joking. He's 4 years old. And then he starts playing, you go, oh my God, who's that? It's not right. It's nobody should be able to do that at 4 years old, because it just doesn't have the time to practice it. It's just innately, and I think it's beautiful. There's other examples of that. Anyway, back to Amanda's question about the theory. What will die will be the DNA strand of your parents. The line of your parents will stop with you if you don't have any children, but you don't stop. You can't carry on because your life is still in your memory stick. You have your whole life and all the memory of yours, but you have the memory of your parents as well in yours. Yeah. It might not be passed through into another physical form, into a physical body, your DNA through a physical form, but it goes out in your memory stick of your DNA of your parents as well. And so it's still imprinted. So when it comes back in, that still comes back in, if you believe in reincarnation or not, it comes back in with all your life experience, plus still got the DNA of all your parents. So it's still there, unless you choose to get rid of the DNA of your parents. And so you want to reboot your computer and get rid of it. So the whole of that still carries on, but in a different way. But it gets imprinted into another body that has the DNA from its parents into the DNA of whatever the parents that created that physical form that has their DNA. Now you bring your memories of your life and everything with you into yours, your life and your other DNA of your parents into this mix. So you can see how complicated that is in such an extraordinary way. But remember, our mind's trying to perceive that and the complexity of that. But then maybe it's not as complex as we think it is. It's just complex for our mind to try and hold the concept of how big that is. Maybe it's not that big, really. It's just our mind thinks it is. And when you have computers that do, 15 billion transactions a second, our minds can't even perceive how fast that is. Because our mind probably works even faster than that. But we can't perceive that consciously about the understanding of that. But it doesn't mean it can't do it. It's just a perception. I talked the other day about, if we had such thing as heaven or the oneness or the great consciousness. The great consciousness in there's 8 billion people on this planet. The great consciousness or God's inside the mind of 8 billion people at the same time right now. The same moment. We all live in the same present moment in this world. And right now, 8 billion people and listening to the thoughts. And planning for things to happen in their life for them to keep growing up and keep evolving at the same time. That's 8 billion people. What about all the animals, the birds, the trees, and everything else that it's evolved in, that is in the consciousness of all of that as well? My mind can't even hold how big that consciousness is. It just goes, okay, well, I've struggled with 1 + 1 is 2, let alone 8 billion and all the animals and all the birds and everything else. And we know that all the animals talk to each other. We know that the trees talk to each other. We just don't talk their language. And we know they're all communicating. And they've done studies on trees talking to each other. We know animals talk through sound. We know they talk through vibrational presence. They have, because we only talk about the things we can hear, but what about all the things we can't hear? The sounds that we can't even pick up. Dogs can communicate in a higher pitch, whales and things like that. They can hear, but you can still hear the sound. But what about the sounds we don't hear, the communication? Trees talking to each other, we just can't hear their language because we're not privy to that frequency. So it's all talking. The whole lot's alive. It's fantastic, isn't it? And then we're somehow trying to make some sense of our lives. Good luck. So, Amanda, so is that giving you some... And remember, this is theory too, by the way. It's not. I'm not saying that this is true. This is just passing on my understanding of it. But remember, it's just understanding. It's not necessarily true because I haven't had the experience to go out, see my memory stick go out and come back in again. I just think that there's a theory behind this. There seems some sort of reality. It seems like it's tangible that this could happen. And I'm not saying it's true because, gee, I'd be pretty brave to say that this is the truth. I wouldn't do that.
Maybe we should just let it go.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, there we go.
And you'll
Let it go.
theories. Yeah, and
Let it
just
go.
yeah, just theories, and they're nice to talk about it. But the truth is, well, we still don't know, and just let it go. But it's nice to chat about our reality of who we think we are and what we are, and have a chat about it. But at the end of the day, go back to living in the present moment and experience that, and it'll unfold inside that space, I'm sure. Just let it go. I love it. That was the theme of the last 200 hours about letting go.